in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, welcome back. Here we are. Unfortunately, no peace deal. No peace. But it's coming. It's coming very fast, everybody. We're going to have peace. Henry Kissinger was right 60 years ago. Henry Kissinger, 1972. Henry, well, have you heard from those? He had the worst words for the Asian people. I will not repeat them here, but Nixon could be. Well, he was a man of his times. Richard Nixon was a man of his times. And unfortunately, those times were different than they are now. Not unfortunately, not fortunately. They were just different. Okay? But Henry Kissinger dropped the bomb right in time for re-election, oh, by the way. They were trying to get peace with Vietnam. And they did. They secured it. Cut 3.
We believe that peace is at hand. We believe that an agreement is within sight.
An agreement is within sight. And the same goes for the good old USA and Iran. We're just moments away from a briefing from the White House about this entire situation. I don't think it's going to be a Caroline Leavitt briefing. It just might be a Marco Rubio. Is he still the national security? He's still national security and state. Talk about a lot on his plate. But POTUS is feeling very good about where we are and where we're going. Cut 4.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it, so that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people.
I like it. We got a gift from Iran. Who can get a gift from Iran other than President Trump during a time of war, huh? And, people's heads are spinning to the extent that they're looking at this thing. More and more, this feels like Libya. Do you remember when we were bombing Libya? I barely do. Kind of remember it. Kind of remember when they grabbed Gaddafi. I have no idea what that was. I remember Benghazi. But, day in and day out, people were just living their lives, weren't on the edge of their seat. That's not going to happen when and until boots are on the ground. And that's not going to happen here. So there's a reason why, this is, and people just intuitively know when something is a danger, when something is out of control, and when something is not. I once went to a party. It was a Christmas party. It was the day that President Trump was impeached in 2019. Can't remember why now. I think it was the Zelensky phone call. They impeached him. And I was at this Christmas party, which was teeming with journalists and smart people and media and anchor heads and all that kind of stuff. You know what they were talking about? Dancing with the Stars. I mean, whatever the hell. It's just stupid stuff. I wanted to talk about the impeachment, to be honest, because I was so fired up about it, and nobody knew anything about it because they knew it was fake. Just like I remember there was a bunch of reporters at the White House during COVID, and they actually told President Trump, could you put your mask on? We'd feel more comfortable. The nerve. Can you believe that? And he wouldn't put it on, thank God. And you know what happened? Somebody got a picture of them all taking their masks off after the press conference. Because even they knew a lot of it was so much BS. So if you are paying attention to the news, the regular news, you're not going out of your way to find conservative alternatives, you will be bombarded with messages of doom and gloom. Isn't that right, Mr. President? Cut 5.
I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle. They're totally defeated.
He's right. I mean, look, I'm not there. You're not there. There are some things that are a little bit troubling. And one of them is the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford. Oh, no. Looks like we have a great big lemon on our hands. Maybe we shouldn't have called the thing the Ford. You know what I mean? Did we jinx it? Gerald Ford? Nobody voted for that guy. Nobody voted for him. He was a congressman who got lucky. He was a Joe Blow congressman from Michigan, not particularly noted for his intelligence or anything. What happened to Spiro Agnew? His first Vice President, Richard Nixon, gets caught taking money in the parking lot, taking bribes literally in a parking lot as vice president. Cash, money, bribes. I mean, this is why you went into politics in 1972. This is why this is how it works. Joe Biden, right? That was the mindset. That was the era. That was the thinking. So he gets caught. So he's got to resign because he's about to get indicted. And he was indicted and he was prosecuted and he was convicted. I think he pled guilty. I don't remember if it was a jury or not. I don't think he went to jail. It was like suspended sentence. He might have gone to jail. No, I would have remembered if he went to jail. Spiro Agnew was his name. Governor of Maryland. And like a lot of number ones, by number ones, I mean, presidents, governors, when it's time to pick a deputy, they go out of their way to pick somebody not that impressive. Then again, Spiro Agnew was impressive to those who met him. He was tall. He was good looking. He was the best dressed man in America. He had a certain amount of charisma, but he also wasn't that gifted in the brain department. Anyway, Nixon picked him as the VP. He goes away. Gerald Ford gets basically, they pick his name out of a hat, right? And Gerald Ford is the vice president of the United States. It's weird. So the Gerald Ford is a aircraft carrier that's not even floating near Iran anymore. They had to take it out. They had a big fire on it. There's a rumor that the crew set the fire. There's also word that none of the systems on the ship work, that this damn thing is so advanced that it's broken. You know, when you load up a car with too many specials, too many extras, right? And stuff that starts to go wrong with all the, the extra stuff, the bells, the whistles. Well, and some of that stuff is not working, and you don't want to really test it in combat. I keep hearing that these aircraft carriers can track 150,000 incoming missiles. Yeah, but it's the 150,000th and one that you got to worry about. And we can't have that thing. I understand that they moved the Abraham Lincoln about 3,000 miles away right now because they're worried about Iranian missiles. This is a problem. This is a real problem. That we may have invested too much in those big boats. The Navy becomes, and then like all the services, they just want more stuff. The Navy wants more boats. The Air Force wants more planes. The Marine Corps, sir, yes, sir, we can do whatever you want. Please just keep us around. Oh, well, take our tanks. We don't need them anymore. What? And the Marine Corps, my gosh, I love the Marines, but the culture has gotten a little bit crazy. Sooner or later, you got to say, no, we need this stuff. No, excuse me, you can't cut anymore. I can make the case that you shouldn't be in the airline business if you're doing it like dirt cheap, right? If you're doing it, if you're skimping, you shouldn't really be doing that. All right, so where the hell was I? Oh, yeah. We're gonna find out what the hell's going on. I don't like that there is a strike here at home, but then again, most people are thinking about the strike. They're not thinking too much about what's happening there. Cut 15, please. I wonder how this guy is doing. The LaGuardia Air Traffic Controller. Cut 15.
That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier.
No, man, you did the best you could.
I'm still thinking about that guy. And I'm thinking about the pilots and their families and everybody involved. It's bad, 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 bad. I don't know if you saw the video I put out, but there is a soft coup that has been waged against President Trump now for many years. A soft coup waged by the military. We give them a lot of stuff, the military. We do. Taxpayer dollars, a lot of it. It's our biggest, right after Social Security, I think it's the biggest. and we respect them, and they have this heritage, and it's all great. And these service academies, they don't have to pay for college. They get paid in the military, uniforms. We see their heroism and all that stuff. I think they have an obligation to not politicize that experience, to not use that experience and say, you must follow my lead on this policy issue. And if you don't, you're undermining the troops. Here's, and they do it all the time on Trump, all the time. Sometimes in uniform, sometimes out of uniform. It doesn't really make a difference. Why are these guys on TV? Why are they getting books? Because they wore the uniform. This is a guy named Admiral Bill McRaven, who's depraved McRaven. Depraved. He was a Navy SEAL. Good for him. But what does he take with the prestige and status of being a 4-star military man who's also a Navy SEAL? The swamp. He weaponizes all that stuff and uses it against Trump at the most critical times. This man never even met Donald Trump, by the way. Never met him. Never was in the same room as him. Cut 18.
Had the privilege and the honor of working for a lot of presidents, and I didn't always agree with them, but I always believed that they were men of principle. They were trying to do what was right by the country. They didn't always get it right, but they were trying to do what was right. I don't see that in this president. I felt that the direction of the country was heading in such a bad direction that we needed new leadership, and that Joe Biden will be a much, much better leader than Donald Trump.
Yeah, huh? Thanks, Admiral. All that stuff, all those medals, so he can shove them right up America's. Who else we got here? Vindman, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. You know he got a Purple Heart in Iraq. Ooh, okay. I guess I better shut up. What did he get the Purple Heart for? Choking on a donut? Cut 17.
I was concerned by the call. What I heard was inappropriate, and I reported my concerns to Mr. Eisenberg. It is improper for the President of the United States to demand a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen and a political opponent.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That was the impeachment I was talking about. President Trump did something that was totally within his power. You could say it was even perfect. Joe Biden boasted on TV that he shut down payment to Ukraine, $1 billion payment, unless they fired a local prosecutor, Shokin, who was said to be investigating Burisma, where his son worked. What did President Trump say? Look, if you that doesn't sound right to us. He was bragging, and you may want to look into that, okay? Rudy Giuliani can call you because we're also looking into it as well. Where does it say you can't do that? Where is the rule? Where is the law? Where is it? Where is it? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. Too bad political journalists weren't doing it. They should have been. They're too busy on their laptops tweeting about Trump, saying bad things about him, and trying to show each other how smart they are. Not actually doing their job. Hey, what's this? Verdict reach in landmark social media case. Wow. Somebody sued. I think it was Facebook. And they said this product is too addictive. And you guys knew it was addictive. And it's resulted in pain and bullying and shame. And I want money for my suffering. And I think this young girl's going to win. And that's going to be a major step forward for all of us. Breaking news. A verdict has been reached in landmark social media case. The social media companies did not want this to come to trial. That's victory number one. They always work to get these things dismissed. And too many compliant judges go with the flow. But this is exciting to me as I hold my gosh damn phone and Instagram in my, right? You can't take your eyes off of some of this content. It's really starting to drive all of us crazy. That and the weed. All right, we'll probably have the verdict when we come back. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All righty, we are back, and I will just check in. Who the hell is that? Who the hell is? I don't want to. No. Hey, Andrew, I'm not interested in you calling me up and trying to correct me on stuff you don't know about. All right, All right. I don't care about, don't do that anymore, Andrew. I give you enough. All right. You got that? You got that, please? All right. Hang up the phone now. Ed, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for taking my call, sir. Back in the 80s, I was third assistant engineer on a multi-product tanker. We refueled the Kitty Hawk Carrier Group outside of the Straits of Hormuz. Then we went up the Straits of Hormuz, and we refueled it by rain, and then came back down and refueled then again, and then from there we went to the Philippines. But this was during the Iran-Iraq War. I remember that the captain had the deckhands go out and paint an American flag on the deck of the ship, so everybody knew. When these jets are flying back and forth like crazy, everybody knew we were Americans. We weren't the target at that time. We weren't. This was the Iran-Iraq War back in the early 80s.
Well, that's very nice. That's very nice indeed. What was your job?
Third assistant engineer.
Tell me what day in your life was like.
Well, we worked very hard on that ship, refueling. I tell you what, I was on a tanker that was 1,000 feet long, like 3.5 football fields long. When we pulled up to that Kitty Hawk, that unbelievable, the size of that ship. I mean, we looked like you couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it. And then, and then they shoot the thing across there, and they send the lines over, and we connect the lines, and you pump the fuel over, and then, when it's time for them to disappear, they just cut the lines, and it looks like hundreds of gallons of fuel go in the ocean, and the ships separate, move apart. Pretty wild.
Yeah, I remember those operations, and let's face it, back in the day, the Navy, the military, some of the biggest polluters in the world. We don't do that as much these days. I almost landed on the Kitty Hawk. I was supposed to, but it turned out that the weather was too bad, and they told us to turn around and go back home. Thank you, pal. All right, is it time? It's time. We'll hear a little music, and we'll return. Now, two things. We got a great big verdict coming up. Let me just see here. Wait a second. Jury awards $3 million in damages in social media trial. Let's see here. Meta, failure to warn. Liable. Social media on trial. Meta, negligence. Liable. $3 million. That doesn't seem like enough money to me. These guys have the money. I want a $300 million. I want a $3 billion, and we'll all split it and get, 25 cents. Those class action suits suck. The lawyers are the ones who make out, but right now I think somebody deserves a hell of a lot more money. Hey, listen, Facebook and the rest, you do some good things, but too many women and girls and boys and men are being harmed.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, I think it's good news. A jury awards $3 million in damages in social media. You know how much this thing has revolutionized everything, of course. And if everybody has an opinion, does anyone have an opinion? It's almost there's too much going on. We don't have a monoculture anymore. We don't have one kind of framework. That's mostly good, but it's also very, very bad. It's mostly good. It's also mostly bad, if that makes sense. I know it doesn't, but there is so much good and there is so much bad that it's hard to really decipher it. It's kind of a moment-to-moment thing. But right now, we don't have a country in that our culture is looking in 15 million different directions at any one time. Something huge can happen, something big, and then something big will happen, and everybody gets their attention for 5 minutes, and then something else happens. And more, the events that command attention are silly, stupid things. Like they canceled The Bachelorette. Did you see that? They canceled The Bachelorette, which quite frankly was somewhat interesting. Wow. I'll watch that video. Did you see her throw that chair at the guy? She threw a chair. What are you looking at? What is it? Oh, really? Yeah. So people are still obsessed with it. Personally, I'm more obsessed with what is it like to, bomb a target in Iran? What's that like? What is that, what's going to happen? What are these mullahs going to do? Who's running Iran, right? Those, it's just people are not interested, or people are different. There are plenty of people who are interested in that. And let's say you come out with a big opinion. You get published in the New York Times opinion page. I think this war is wrong and President Trump needs to reevaluate and he should do this, this, and this. Now, there was a time for most of our history where if you got something in the newspaper, that was a big deal. People were like, wow, you're pretty smart. You got something published in the newspaper. And in a way, yeah, you were, because somebody had to see enough merit in your idea that they would invest paper and ink, which cost money, in disseminating your idea. Now, like by definition, it was of value. And you got something published. It was special. You had to go through a process. Not everybody could be published. And people would read. Why did everybody read the newspaper? Arguably, it was of value. They were discriminating about what they put in there, discriminating in a good way. It had to be factual. It had to be true. It had to be beneficial in some way to society. It wasn't crude. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't perverted. There were standards. And presidents would read. Members of Congress would read. Your next door neighbor would read. The milkman would read. Everybody would read. And if something happened, people really were moved and thought and wondered and talked. And if something outrageous happened, well, we needed action. Something had to result. There had to be a reform, a change, something. And many times the people in office looked, listened, understood. They didn't want to be made fun of by these columnists. They didn't want to be targeted by these columnists or newspapers or whatever. They wanted to do a good job, and they had to factor in how these people would think, how they'd process it. So you could write something for a newspaper, and it would have an effect. Not always, but sometimes. I'm talking about really way back in the olden days. Walter Winchell, who was that other guy? Lippmann, I think his name was. People like that. They could build presidents. They could ruin presidents. You know, Regis Philbin. The biggest break in Regis Philbin's career, why Regis Philbin became Regis Philbin at that level, Walter Winchell gave him a shout-out in a column after he saw him fill in for Billy, what's that guy's name again? Who was that guy? Shoot, Joey Bishop. And all of a sudden, Regis Philbin was like a household name. Wow, Walter Winchell likes this guy. Let's all watch. Now, we have nothing like that now. He could write the most devastating, informed, fascinating piece of commentary. And is it of value? Well, you don't have to convince anybody it's of value. You just put it down. It doesn't cost anything. It literally costs nothing to publish now. Nothing. Zero. Zeros and ones, right? Binary, isn't that what? It's just a bunch of dots. And since it's so easy, since there's no gatekeeper anymore, anybody can be published. Anybody can tweet. Anybody. And I'm not saying, again, it's mostly good. It's also mostly bad. What do we have now? We have, well, I happen to love President Trump, right? And this is a great example. I've learned this from President Trump. It really doesn't matter what people say about you. It almost has no bearing. And if you want, you can get them to talk about something else if you're good enough. They're talking about one thing you don't like, you can get them to talk about something else that you like. You can control it. But no one thing seems to matter anymore. And that's both good and bad. You know, and I got to point this out to the podcast bros and everybody else. They think they're, I don't know. It's all kind of it's all kind of canceling each other out. It's all neutralizing each other. What does that mean? Ultimately, it makes us all a little bit less safe and a lot less unified. A lot less unified. Jury finds Meta and Google liable in social media addiction trial. Nobody was addicted to the newspaper before. I kind of remember that, right? Nobody was. You could put the newspaper down, or once you were finished with the newspaper, maybe you talk to God forbid, the guy in the seat next to you. Oh my God, that guy's so creepy. He talked to me. What a creep. The social media company Meta and the video streaming service YouTube harmed a young user with design features that were addictive and led to her mental distress. A jury found on Wednesday a landmark decision that could open social media companies to more lawsuits over users' well-being. Meta and YouTube must pay $3 million in compensatory damages for pain and suffering and other financial burdens. Meta is responsible for 70% of that cost and YouTube for the remainder. The bellwether case, which was brought by a now 20-year-old woman identified as KGM, had accused social media companies of creating products as addictive as cigarettes or digital casinos. KGM sued Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook, and Google's YouTube over features like infinite scroll and algorithmic recommendations that she claimed led to anxiety and depression. The jury of 7 women and 5 men will deliberate further to decide what further punitive damages the company should pay for malice or fraud. Now we're talking money. I knew that $3 million figure wasn't enough. You know how much the lawyers get? $1 million. They get a third. You know how much the government gets? Half. Well, do they actually from a lawsuit? I don't know. Are they is it taxable? The verdict in KGM's case, one of thousands of lawsuits filed by teenagers, school districts, and state attorneys general against Meta, YouTube, TikTok, and Snap, which owns Snapchat, was a major win for the plaintiffs. The finding validates a novel legal theory that social media sites or apps can cause personal injury. It is likely to factor into similar cases expected to go to trial this year, which could expose the internet giants to further financial damages and force changes to their products. The personal liability argument draws inspiration from a legal playbook used against Big Tobacco last century, in which lawyers argued that the companies created addictive products that harmed users. Remember how those guys came in to the briefing room? Hey, do me a favor. I want to switch to the White House, if you don't mind. I was hoping it was going to be Marco Rubio. It's not. It's Caroline Leavitt, and she's very, very good, of course, but I kind of want, now that we're close to peace, I hope we're close to peace. What is she talking about?
Turning to the ongoing military operations in Iran. The United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities. Just over 3 weeks in, it's abundantly clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II. We are systematically dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent future threats to the region. Our military also remains laser focused on eliminating the regime's threat to the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the weekend, we dropped several 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility used to store equipment, including anti-ship cruise missiles and mobile missile launchers positioned along the coastline of the strait. Our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's ability to terrorize merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally. Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. They recognize they are being crushed, their ability to attack American and ally forces, as well as their ability to defend their own territory is dwindling literally hour by hour. Following President Trump's powerful threat on Saturday evening, it was made clear to the United States that Iran wanted to talk. President Trump is willing to listen. As President Trump announced on Monday, the United States has been engaged over the last 3 days in productive conversations, which led the president to temporarily instruct the Department of War to postpone planned strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure only. The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal. Here at home, we are now on day 40 of the Democrats' shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Democrats in Congress are forcing American travelers to wait in hours-long lines at airports across the country, robbing TSA officers and other federal workers of their hard-earned paychecks that they use to feed their families, and causing billions of dollars in damage to our economy. A father of 3 recently told CBS News that he felt he had no other choice but to quit his job as a TSA officer and find other work as the Democrats' shutdown of DHS continues. This is the quote from the father, and I encourage everyone to listen. I think the hardest thing is seeing the struggle that my wife was going through and not trying to bring more stress to her, the father of 3 said, but seeing her cry every night. How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to survive? For the Democrats in Congress, the cruelty of this shutdown is the point. Nearly 500 TSA officers have quit since the Democrat shutdown began. President Trump, to alleviate this pressure, made the decision to send some of our amazing ICE agents to help alleviate that stress and address the long wait times. And for all of the critics of this solution a few days ago when it was proposed by the president, it is yielding results. Wait times have improved since ICE arrived, and they are doing everything in their power to help their fellow federal service members. But it's important to take a step back and remember, why is this even happening in the first place? For nearly 6 weeks, Democrats in Congress have kept DHS shut down because they care more about illegal aliens than American citizens. You have Democrat elected representatives in states across the country who are willing to inflict massive pain on their own constituents to fight for illegal aliens who broke our nation's laws to come here. In recent days, we saw the deadly consequence of this deranged policy of Democrat open borders and an illegal alien-first agenda. A beautiful 18-year-old girl, Sheridan Gorman, she was shot and killed in Chicago last Thursday morning while walking in a park with friends. The suspect in custody for murdering her is a Venezuelan illegal alien who was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in May of 2023. Why would the Biden administration catch and release a Venezuelan illegal alien? That is not happening anymore under this president. But there are still tens of thousands, if not millions, of these illegal aliens in our country who seek to do harm to innocent Americans, like this beautiful young woman whose family will now never be the same because of her death. To make matters even worse, this monster was also released from local custody again after a shoplifting arrest, where? In the sanctuary city of Chicago in June of 2023. Again, another innocent American citizen had her life stolen from her because Democrats embrace reckless open border policies and reckless sanctuary city policies, which put criminals back into American communities. How many more Americans have to die before the Democrats end this madness? President Trump's position is very clear. He wants the federal government opened, he wants the Department of Homeland Security funded, and he wants the Democrat shutdown to end immediately. The president will also continue to call on Democrat leaders in sanctuary cities and states like J.B. Pritzker, where this young, beautiful girl was murdered, to cooperate with ICE and stop releasing illegal alien criminals into American neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Well done. Sheridan Gorman, killed by an illegal alien who got in under Biden. All right. Something else. Entirely different, but very important. Flu season. Worst we've seen in years. In my family, when someone gets sick, everyone gets sick. We don't have to fight to see a doctor anymore. We're not stuck in a crowded urgent care because I'm ready. I've got a medical emergency kit. It's been awesome. My kit is stocked with essential prescription medications, antibiotics, a generic Z-Pack. Those are always what you need. It helps you recover faster. Amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections. Also prescription for nausea, UTIs, and they have ivermectin in there. It's simple. You match your symptoms in the guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Start treatment early. Feel better faster. No waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. I love my medical emergency kit, and you should get one too. I got you $45 off when you use my code GREG, G-R-E-G. Just go to urgentcarekit.com/Greg. urgentcarekit.com/Greg.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Our good people at ICE are getting harassed at airports. They're getting harassed. People are yelling at them, saying President Trump is not going to pardon you. Pardon you for what? All right. These guys are providing security at the airports. They're trying to lessen the load on the TSA. They're handing out water bottles, and idiots are getting in their faces. And trying to get him into trouble, blowing whistles. Nasty stuff. I can't stand it. Hey, we have this, something to consider. The 82nd Airborne, 3,000 troops going over the Middle East. Well, 3,000 troops ain't that much. You know what it is? It could be a show of force. It could be symbolic, but you can't take over a country. You can't even take over territory with that few. All right? It's like it's a regiment. It's a regiment. It's not all that big. Uh-oh. Yes, Lewis, what is it?
Yeah, the Bible says that peace, peace, then sudden destruction. Then comes the Ezekiel Wars when Russia attacks America and Israel. And I'm also Anthony.
All right. Well, anyway, well, look, your interpretation, you're interpreting, right? You're interpreting. You're being very specific, but this is your interpretation. Right?
And Greg, right. I'm sorry to bother you in the past too much.
Oh, well, it bothers me when you don't answer my question. So answer my question. That's your That's your interpretation of the Bible, correct?
No, it's in the Bible. It's actually written.
It's actually written about Russia?
Yeah, Russia, Gog and Magog.
Well, listen, these things are open to interpretation, as you know. I love God, and I love they have biblical scholars who look at these things and, they disagree. Right? I don't know from that. I don't know from that. Maybe. What's your suggestion? If God warned us about this, what do we do?
Just trust in the Lord and preach the gospel.
Amen. That will never let you down. All right. Thank you very much, Anthony. Sorry about that. There's the music with the heavy bass lines. All right. I'll be back. This Joe Kent thing seems to be dissipating. Although his people are coming after me, the nicest guy in the world.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?